In the previous examples, we used a for loop to go through our headers. There is another way to approach these challenges. There are two types of for loops, for and for each. The difference between them is that for loops go through a set of numbers, whereas for each loops go through a collection of items, such as a range of cells, worksheets, workbooks, or items in an array. It will go through everything in the collection from beginning to end. While for each loops tend to be faster for collections, the for loop is more flexible, allowing things like stepping through every other row, every third row, or looping backwards. In this video, we're going to translate our for loops into for each loops. We'll start with the fixed states macro. We'll need to add two new variables, a variable for the range of cells in our header, and a variable for the for each loop. And we will comment out the call_num variable because we won't need it. It would still run if we leave it in, but it's a good practice to take out unused variables. Now we need to set our range, which will go from A1 to the last cell that holds data. We're going to comment out our for loop. We want to keep that for now. And next, we'll start the for each loop. And we will use our if statement, so we're going to copy that over. And then remove everything except for the word cell. In order to change the format for the column, we just need to add entire column. So we hit our reset, save, and run. And as we can see, all of the date columns have been changed. And now for our fixed time. We'll copy over the variables, and we will copy over the range value. And we will do the same with commenting out our code, starting our for each loop, and bringing in our if statement. And I almost forgot to comment out call_num. Now we hit reset, save, and run. And as we can see, all of the times have been changed. And next, for the fixed column width, we're going to skip over the complex date for now. We're going to copy our variables, copy our range, comment out our for loop, start our for each loop, bring in our if statements, and make adjustments. So we hit reset, save, and run, and we see that all of the columns have been adjusted, and the order description is not greater than 18. So let's go back up to our fixed dates macro. Which one of these runs faster? There isn't much going on inside either of the loops. The for each is probably slightly faster. Looking at our for loop, each time we check a header, Excel is calculating the value of the cell twice. We can see that here and here. With the for each loop, Excel has put the header values in a collection and doesn't need to perform calculations. To be honest, the mechanisms of the for each loop is a little magical to me. We see here it is using the value of the cell to search for the word date, and here it's using the cell range to change the number format, which is why we use a variant data type. For these macros, using one way or the other wouldn't necessarily make a noticeable difference. When it comes to performance, it really depends on your particular situation. You may have a simple macro like these that runs without an issue. However, if you want to modify it at a later date, that can affect how well it runs. The important thing is to know how to write both types of loops and how to translate from one to the other. And now for the big translation, the fixed dates complex. For this we have two loops, and we will need 4 new variables. We're going to remove 4 old variables to highlight the differences. We need a variable to loop through our outer for each loop, a variable to loop through our inner for each loop, the collection of our array values, and the collection of our header values. And we're going to comment out call_num, header, header R, and rnum. And header R is going to become header R1. We're going to start with the inner loop and work our way out. First, we need to comment out our current inner loop. We will create a for each loop that will take the header from the outer loop and check it against the items in the array. The outer header variable will hold our header value, and the inner header variable will hold our array value. We will keep the action items and bring those in. We want to comment out getting the header value. We won't need this anymore. And now for the outer for each loop, which will loop through the headers in the spreadsheet. Oh yes, let's not forget to set our header array too. We'll copy and paste that over. And finally, we need to change our action taken when the isInArray is true. Say reset, save, run. Oops, let me try that again with the new sheet. Reset, save, run. And we see that the dates have changed. So that it's clear, we want to go through the new fixed dates complex macro using the debugger so that you can see what is happening at each step. We will use the mock data from the second video. We'll go down to our first for each loop. Go to Debug and click on Run to Cursor. If we hover over our outer header, we will see that it is currently empty, as well as the inner header. The last column with data is column 10. And back to our for each loop. If we hit F8, the outer header is now the date. Stepping through using F8, we see our isInArray is false. Continuing with F8, now our inner header is DAT. These are compared and isInArray becomes true, so we exit the for loop to the if statement. Since isInArray is true, our column format changes. And now we start over with the next header and reset the isInArray variable. Using Debugger is a good way to see things step by step, and to make sure your macro is really doing what you think it's doing.